What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nii, host of Docs Outside the Box. I'm joined by my co-hostess with the co-mostess, Dr. Renee. What's good? How you doing?
Hey, my name's Dr. Renee, and I'm here to say I'm here to rock the mic and the pod day. Hey.
No.
Okay, like I just had an Issa Rae moment. Really
so Insecure is back, yeah? Insecure is back. You're rapping just like her.
Yeah, I think that. Anyway, I don't think I was rapping like her. But, yeah, that was a little awkward.
What's good, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in. So, listen, let's jump right into it. So, Renee can't rap. And
hello.
She can't rap, so let's jump into, or it'd be a natural segue to talk about Fugees. I'm not saying that they can't rap, but the Fugees, which is the group that was big in 96, 97 with their album The Score, they are going on tour, or at least they announced it earlier that they're going on tour. Anybody know about the history of Lauryn Hill? That was when I heard this. I was like, are they even going to be able to finish the tour? Because she shows up late all the time. You know, they've had some issues where they may not get along. I don't know if this is a good idea. The other thing, too, is like, was anybody really asking for this?
Listen.
Like, for real, like Fugees? I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority, but...
I really liked the Fugees back when, in the 90s, when they were really big. They put out really good music. I love Lauryn Hill's album, but as far as their skill set, I think it's fine.
Proswell?
Okay, well, maybe not Proswell, but maybe it's just a great producer. I don't know. Anyway.
Ghetto superstar.
Listen, my mama said you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. But yeah, the trend of Lauryn Hill's her attendance record, let's just put it like this. If she were in school getting miseducated, she would get all zeros on attendance.
Yeah, so people who don't know, she notoriously is late or no shows to her concerts or whatever it is, and it's to the point where it's like everybody knows.
Yeah, it's like the running joke at this point. And if you buy Lauryn Hill tickets,
that's on you.
That's on you. That's your bad. That's your bad. You get what's coming to you. You get what's coming to you. You want a negative investment? That's a negative investment. Yeah. I'm sorry. I love Lauryn Hill, but I would never buy tickets to see Lauryn. Never, ever buy tickets to see Lauryn Hill. Never.
So she was a feature on Nas's King's Disease 2, and they did something special. So just like in 96, when I Ruled the World, like it was amazing. Like she came out with something. It was great. It's not on the same level, but she definitely shows out of the three, she is the best lyricist.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She carries everyone. And definitely, I can see why people would want to see her and at least Wyclef, because in their own respective right, they're great musicians.
Absolutely.
Pras, but the reason that they're postponing actually has nothing to do with Lauryn Hill being late. Right. The reason they're postponing is because of COVID, and they're not sure if they can get past some of the mandates in some of these other states, some of these other cities. So they're postponing until 2022 when things get a little bit clearer and they can, promise that they can get to all of these different sites and different tour dates, and just give everybody an equal opportunity to see them. So, I stick by this. Like, I don't know if everybody was really asking for Fugees. I kind of thought that album, The Score, was overrated. I think there are a couple of songs on it that were great, but it wasn't as good as The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I'll just
Lauryn Hill is a talent, man. She's amazing. I would actually love to see her in concert, but I wouldn't pay for it.
You don't want to wait 3 hours.
I don't want to wait 3 hours just to be told.
So rather than go to the Fugees concert, guys, why don't you put the money in VTI? This is going to be the running joke. I'm just going to be like, rather than do this, just put the money in VTI.
Rather than buy that Snickers bar, why don't you put that $1.50 into VTI?
I know you're hungry. Just put that money in VTI. What did you say? Don't invest in VTI. Invest in what?
Don't invest in FUG. That's Fugees.
FUG, short for Fuji.
Do not invest in FUG.
So, for anybody who's souped up about the Fugees, going on tour. It's going to be postponed until 2022. It makes sense. It's cool. So I'm cool with that. What do you think? You cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
So let's segue into our next topic. We have no segue for this, but this is something that I just got put on a couple of days ago. So I listened to the Junior Doctor's Corner podcast. This is hosted by Dr. Dana. She's a doctor out in Australia. It's a really good podcast because sometimes it's interesting to listen to the things that occur in a different country, in a different training system. And she had on a lawyer whose law firm is representing a bunch of junior doctors, which is the equivalent of just residents here in the United States. So there's a bunch of junior doctors who are claiming that when they do overtime, so they have regular duty hours, they work their duty hours, but, oftentimes, when you work, when you sign out, you don't really get to leave immediately afterwards. Mm-hmm. So they can claim overtime. Okay. The problem is that they're claiming that they don't get allowed, a lot of them are not being allowed to document that they are doing this overtime so that they can get paid overtime hours. So they actually jumped on a actual class action lawsuit, which I thought was really fascinating. So back in December 2020, a class action lawsuit was filed against the Ministries of Health of New South Wales, which is the region that incorporates Sydney, Australia, as well as the Ministries of Health of Victoria. And this is the region that incorporates Melbourne. And like I said,
Melbourne.
You act like you've been there.
I've been there.
All right. Melbourne, tomato. All right. Either way, they're claiming that a lot of them are not allowed to, document overtime hours. They're also saying that in Victoria, there was a recent study that went out, or not study, a survey that went out, said that 47% of junior doctors claim that they have never been paid for overtime. 47%.
That's a lot of doctors with a lot of overtime, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And I think the crux of the lawsuit, based off of what I'm understanding, is if you work extra, then you should get paid for your hours. Mm-hmm. But the whole notion of the class action lawsuit also is I didn't know this, but all the junior doctors are on 12-month contracts.
Right.
So there's no you will continue, or it's not guaranteed that you're going to continue
the following year.
Right.
Right.
Which is scary, right? How likely are you to speak out
if you think that your job
right? It's like being in the NFL, right?
Right.
I'm not lying. It's like being in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then also, a lot of them are saying that they are encouraged by their supervisors not to document overtime hours for whatever reason. And if you're on a 12-month contract and someone is telling you who's in charge of writing your letter of recommendation possibly, or helping you move up the ladder, hey, don't put down these overtime hours.
Right. How likely
are you going to do this? And then how likely are you to sue over this? Even though you're supposed to get what you get, what you're due, how likely are you to sue if you're going to be the one and only person? Right. And that's why they have this class action lawsuit, so that a whole bunch of different junior doctors can get in, not necessarily have to identify themselves and get into this. So surprisingly, I was shocked about this. The Australian Medical Association, which is the equivalent of our AMA, supports these lawsuits. Ba-boom.
Bazinga.
Bazing. So I was actually shocked about that. And one of the comments from someone who represents the Australian Medical Association said that, this is literally basically like one of the ways in which they stop the culture of working overtime and not getting paid for it, working and you're really tired.
Right.
Just this overall thing that, here in the United States, I don't know if it would fly for a whole host of reasons.
Right.
I get what they're saying. I kind of understand what they're saying, and I support them on it, but it's really interesting. What do you think about it?
Man, I think, well, first of all, there are a number, I think, of similarities, right, in what's going on there versus what's going on here. We know that people go over their duty hours. Now, there isn't necessarily overtime pay here, but people are not necessarily encouraged to say that they are working overtime, quote unquote overtime, when it's time to do the ACGME,
right, to log your hours, and
right,
so forth.
to log your hours and things like that. They're not necessarily encouraged to do that. Some programs don't necessarily encourage residents to go home, right? Like, you've been here 24 hours, like, no, you're not going to do this case. You need to go home, right? We know that doesn't happen. And we know that sometimes, there are programs, especially smaller programs, that
it's
are
self-reporting.
Like, yeah, exactly. That we know that they're like, listen, you need to stay because, this work needs to be done, and who else is going to cover you? There's nobody's going to cover you.
So that point right there is the crux, I think, of this lawsuit. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's from a legal standpoint, the notion is, or the claim is, if I do overtime, pay me, right? Not F you pay me, but pay me, right? I want to get my money.
Right.
But based off of what I'm seeing from different junior doctors who've been interviewed, they're saying, look, this is not about the money.
Okay.
This is about, logging hours so that the ministries of health know that there are all of these doctors who are logging all of these overtime hours. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the upcoming year to budget or to decide how many more physicians are going to be allowed into these residencies, they'll have to look at that data and they'll have to increase the amount of doctors who are in residency or who are in training. And that will help, decrease the amount of overtime that's even needed because there's more people in the workforce.
Right.
Right. And obviously that's going to be less doctors who are tired, less overtime, and better patient care.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the same argument, like, here in the United States. My only question, about that kind of vision, right? It's great, like that residency programs, just like we see here, right? Decrease the number of hours that residents are working, decrease the number of 24-hour calls that they're doing, so that you can increase, you can improve patient care. I get all of that, but let's talk also about what that culture is once you're out of training. Because once you're out of training, what protection are you getting? You're not getting any protection, right? Like, this is all within the confines of training. So yes, it may improve patient care kind of, in the long run while people are in training, but those people more likely than not are going to come out of training and then go into an environment where they're not protected, just like we are.
There's no duty hours.
Exactly. There's no duty hours. If I want to work, I literally have worked 48 hours on call. I literally have done that. There was no police to be like, hey, you need to go home. Like, no, it's like, oh, Dr. Darko, you want to work 48 hours? Sure. You want to work 72 hours? Sure. Like, nobody can stop me from working as many hours as I want as an attending.
I think the reason why the AMA or the Australian Medical Association is supporting this is I think this becomes like a watershed moment where this affects how junior doctors are trained, but I think eventually it may affect doctors who are like consultants or the equivalent of attendings here and how they work also.
I mean, I get that, but I'm just thinking about the logistics.
Yeah. I mean, the logistics, I mean, this is a huge battle.
Yeah.
Right? This is a huge battle. This is a huge uphill battle. Like, how do you change culture? Can you change culture with this one legislation? I don't know.
Right.
Because I do agree with you. Like, we keep doing these things for duty hours, but then when they graduate,
you become an attending. Ain't no duty hour protections. Like, you work. Like, you can work as much as you want. And the reality is, unless there's going to be yet another policing body or, the AMA, or AOA becomes the policing body of duty hours for attending physicians, which that's not going to happen because, well, it's not going to happen. Then, how much of an improvement are you actually putting into the system in regards to patient care?
Yeah, I agree with you there. Well, listen, I'm really interested in what people have to say about this. If you have an opinion on this, go ahead and, send us a voicemail. Just go to the homepage and click on the blue button where you can leave us a voicemail and let me know your thoughts.
Text us.
Yeah, tell them how you text.
Text us. We'll have the number in the show notes. But yeah, if you want to text Dr. Nii your thoughts, go ahead and just, have your stream of consciousness via text, and we'll address it on the show.
I'll be following this case. So, if anybody wants updates, I'll continue to follow this case. Yeah. Nothing has obviously come through with this yet. They changed some things even in April of this year. So there's no judgment or anything like that. So.
Okay. That'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, it'll be really interesting.
Listen, let's talk about some real estate. And let's talk about how you dragging us down.
How am I dragging us down?
And don't be laughing. This is serious. Yo, you dragging us down with your bad credit score. So listen, everybody. This is real stuff. So Renee's got a bad credit score, mainly because we paid off all of our debt. Renee hasn't had a credit card in over, 20 years?
Yes.
And because she has a bad credit score, she can't get...
I don't think it's fair that they give you a bad credit score because you've had no credit. Like, that's...
Yeah, so you've had no revolving credit whatsoever.
Exactly, which means I just, if I can't afford it, I don't put it on credit. I just, I pay cash for the things that I can't afford.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to be able to show a history of being able to have some type of revolving credit and pay that off. So... as a result, my credit is good.
Yeah, because you like to rack up debt.
I do be putting them Jordans on the credit card and stuff. Right. And I bought that Transformer, that Optimus Prime, which we got to talk about in this upcoming episode.
Oh, Jesus.
Guys, I bought a $750 robotic... two robotic Optimus Primes that I'm going to put on eBay. But we're going to talk about that in a different episode.
I told you should have bought 5, but you ain't listening.
But rather than buy an Optimus Prime, $750, I should just put it in
VTI.
VTI. Someone's going to write in and be like, shut up. Like, shut the fuck up with this VTI shit. But back to real estate and you dragging us down. So your credit score is so bad that you can't be put on a loan, actually.
It's not so bad. It literally is 2 points off.
Your credit score is that bad that we can't. I got to get the loan in my name, and then we'll kind of figure it out for what it is. But
it's 2 points.
It could be worse. I'll leave it to you all.
It's 2 points off. Let's get that straight. Anyway, yes. So as we mentioned before, we are looking to purchase our second property to build our real estate empire. And I started to apply for a loan. And obviously, I put both of us on the loan, and they were like, "Yeah, no, not you, him."
You can come into the club. You stay outside.
Basically, you stay outside. You ain't on this list. You ain't on the VIP list.
You were mad?
I wasn't mad. No, I wasn't mad. I was annoyed because the experience was kind of weird because they were saying they couldn't see my credit score. They thought it was frozen. I was like, okay, well, it's not frozen because I didn't freeze it. And I could see the credit score. I actually went to, the credit bureaus and stuff, and I saw it. And I'm like, no, just, if the credit is too low, then the credit is too low, but don't say that you can't see it. Like, for me, that delayed us just basically making a decision to simply say, okay, well, I'm going to remove myself from the application so that we can move forward with you on the application and just do it that way. So that for me was the annoying part. I just didn't like being delayed.
Okay, well, either way, we did get the pre-approval. Excuse me. I did get the pre-approval letter, right? So I'm getting a house.
So I'm gonna leave you high and dry too. You're gonna be like, hey,
okay,
you ain't paying your part of this.
It's my real estate empire, right? Okay, and
I want half Eddie.
Once I uploaded the approval letter,
community property.
Once I uploaded the approval letter to Awning. So remember, they have like a portal where you can upload your pre-approval letter up there. I uploaded it, and now we're back to like full steam ahead looking at properties. And I like that you can just kind of click a thumbs up if you like a property or a thumbs down. Mm-hmm. And what they do is, everyone, is they make it really easy by, you basically have like a card system, right? And on each card, it has the picture of the house, the address, and then it has little things in there such as what the cap rate is, what the 1%, or excuse me, what the cap rate is, what the rents are, what kind of neighborhood it's in. And then when you click on it, you can learn more about the property.
Right.
And then the thing that I really like about it is you can customize certain things. Like you can customize what your interest rate for your loan is going to be based off of your pre-approval. How much do you want to put down? Just different things that you want to put in there and how that affects your cash flow, which I think is really dope. So there are a couple of properties that we're going to look at tomorrow. We're going to do a deep dive with our realtor, Umberto, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I wanted you to describe to people real quick is if they're listening and some people are like, well, there's all these different numbers that I get confused. But what's the first number that you use? What's the first thing that you teach people when you're telling them what to look at for real estate?
Well, first of all, let's just say I'm still learning myself, but what I look at is I look at the 1% rule. Okay. Right. And so what the 1% rule is, kind of like Nii mentioned, on the awning platform, when you go there, they have the rent. And so you see what the purchase price, or at least the asking price is, and then you see what the rent either is actually or could potentially be. And so if that rent is 1% of the asking price, then it's kind of like a screening test, right? It's kind of like, it's kind of like a self-breast exam, right? So that's the screening, right?
That's the example, the analogy you want to use?
I'm an OBGYN. I could have gone the other route. Okay. So, yeah. So that's the 1% rule. So if, that's the screening test to basically say, should I look further into this property? Now, if a property doesn't meet the 1% rule, that doesn't mean that you just throw it away necessarily. You could still kind of look at it if it's close to 1%. Certainly if it's more than 1%, you should definitely take a deeper look at it.
So give them an example. So if a property is being sold for $100,000, you want about $1,000 worth
for the
of
rent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so $1,000 worth of rent. And so let's say that same property was $900, right, in rent. So you could be like, well, it's close enough. You might want to dive deeper into it. You might want to say, but is it really worth $100,000?
Right. So where's the potential?
Exactly.
Can you decrease the price so that maybe it's, $99,000?
Right. Exactly. Or what can you do to it? Can you upgrade it, for, a low cost of renovation, and maybe now you can get more rent for it, and then you hit the 1% rule, or you even surpass the 1% rule. So, but that's just kind of like the screening test to be like, very quickly, do I want to dig deeper into this property?
Okay. All right. So you look at that, and then what's another thing that you use?
So the other thing that you can use is something called a cap rate. And that's short for capitalization rate, right? So I kind of think about it like, what's the rate at which I will capitalize off this property? Right. That's the way that I think about it.
Guys, she used to teach high schoolers just like this.
Oh, it was even worse.
Yeah.
But they kind of got my Michael Jackson dance moves and everything, but which I will not be doing here.
I was about to say, don't tell them any more about it. Stop right there, please.
My students loved me. But anyway, so that's the way that I think about it, right? Like, what is the rate at which I will capitalize off this property? And cap rate, you could liken it. It has a correlation, right? Like, it's not cause and effect, but it has a correlation to risk. Okay, so the cap rate, if you were looking at a formula, everybody get your math hats on. If you were looking at a formula, it would be your net operating income over whatever the price is of that asset, or the value of that asset, right? So the net operating income is, how much money net, right, after all of your expenses, okay, are you going to basically have in your pocket? Like, how much money am I going to get after I pay everything off, right? I pay my mortgage, I pay my insurance, I paid all these things. how much money am I going to have in my bank account? Okay, so that's the net operating income. That's the top number, the numerator. Then the bottom number is, well, how much am I going to pay for this house? Okay, how much am I going to pay for this house? So that's where that, this cap rate becomes interesting again, because you can play with how much you're going to pay with for the house. So if you pay lower for the house or, versus higher for the house, it's going to change the cap rate.
Okay.
Okay. So, and that kind of correlates to the amount of risk that you're going to be taking. So if the net operating income is high, but the purchase price is, lower, then potentially your cap rate is going to be higher. And the higher the cap rate, the higher the risk.
Okay.
So if you have a higher cap rate, you have a higher risk. So
The higher risk of what?
A higher risk, just a higher risk for the property, right? Because real estate involves a lot of risk, right? So you have a higher risk potentially that, you are going to make less money, or that you potentially are going to, actually it just works out to the risk of you making less money.
Gotcha.
Right? Because that's ultimately what you're trying to do in real estate, is you're trying to make money. So that's the risk really that you're always taking with real estate.
Yeah.
So,
well, I like to also what you just described, like these are the numbers that are in the portal for awning, right? So they give you a tutorial on what cap rate is. They give you a tutorial on cash, like all of these things that you may be nervous about. They actually give a tutorial on that stuff, so you can easily look that stuff up. So, and
the deep dive as well.
Right. So right now, I'm a little nervous though, because the Houston market is going fast. So we've looked at several properties, and like as we're getting ready to like talk more about it and get deeper into it, they've like gone into like contracts with someone else. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, like we literally were looking at a property today, and we asked for a deep dive. So awning, when you like a property, you have the option of asking for a deep dive. And what that means is that you meet with somebody from awning to kind of go over the property and discuss all those numbers, and, basically educate you, help them to educate you on what it is that you need to know as to whether or not you want to put in an offer. And while we were looking at the property and asking for a deep dive, they were like, oh yeah, no, this just went off the market. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's apparently Houston is no joke. We may have to start looking into San Antonio. So
hot Houston,
San Antonio. We'll see. But everybody keep tuning in to get the updates on how we're doing with trying to get a property in Texas. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's transition to the last subject, right? The last subject we're going to talk about quickly is the reviews for the MacBook Pro laptops are in, as well as the Nexus, or the Pixel 6, is out. The MacBook Pros look phenomenal, what they're doing compared to regular Intel chips, PC chips. You can't compete, man. Like, these numbers look great. The battery life is amazing. The computing power is out of this world. I'm thinking about getting a MacBook.
Hey!
Not a MacBook Air, a MacBook Pro. Like, it's ridiculous.
I'm speechless.
Oh, please.
I'm speechless.
Please.
Mark this day,
guys,
everyone.
She's exaggerating.
Mark.
She's exaggerating.
No, I am not exaggerating. I am so not exaggerating. Let me tell you something, okay?
I didn't say an iPhone. I just said the MacBook Pro.
No, listen. But see, here's my thing. But you be trying to change up stuff. You were hating on Macs. You literally, when I got my first Mac in 2014, you were like, this is a PC house. Literally a PC house, right? Like, it was like his religion or something, right? This is a PC house, or you're going to go and bring a Mac into this house. Like, what are you talking about?
Like the scene from Jungle Fever. Remember the last day when they heard you say.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay,
Mother,
pretty much.
Father, I love you. You come and bring that to the both. No, but listen.
Yeah.
All right, it was that bad.
It was bad.
But back then, back then, when you were buying a Mac versus buying any type of laptop, you were really buying it because it was made differently. Like it felt different, right?
Okay.
But the computing power there wasn't a difference back then.
Okay, so
right?
if there wasn't a difference, then what was the big hoopla about?
It was because people like they bought into the culture of Apple, right? Like it was the anti-culture. So there was a whole bunch of people. It's the same reason why people drive freaking Subarus. Right?
It was a whole bunch of people. You were one of those people.
No, I didn't use an Apple back then.
No, you were anti-culture.
No. Apple represented anti-culture because
okay,
like
fine.
The
you were anti-culture.
So listen, the prevailing winds was that everybody, for the most part, whether you're at work or at school, they all had PCs, right? And if you wanted to be different, if you wanted to think differently, you got an Apple, right? And the computers looked better, they worked better, quote unquote, than a regular PC laptop. But now it's like, you can't compare the computing power of what these M1 chips are doing compared to a regular laptop. You just can't. So it was like, well, in order for our workflow, like even like just doing something like this, like watching a YouTube channel or recording this, like the fans on these laptops are going off like crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, I'm gonna get a MacBook Pro. I'm not gonna invest in VTI. I'm gonna take that money. I'm gonna go get me a MacBook Pro. I don't care what anybody says. These MacBook Pros are dope. All right. And then the next thing is the Pixel 6. I'm not getting a Pixel 6.
You are not?
I have a Pixel 5, everyone. So Pixel 5s are made by Google, Android phones. I have a Pixel 5, same camera that they've been using since the Pixel 2. So we're talking about 4 or 5 years of the same camera system. They've always been known to have the best camera system compared to any other cell phone, including iPhones, until the iPhone 11. Then they caught up. So Apple caught up, and now they've surpassed them. And they just have better, like it's just, the video is better.
Okay.
The video for an iPhone, I think, is way better than a Pixel. But for me, when I'm buying a phone, it's really about which phone is going to take the best pictures. And
you're not really buying a phone. You're buying a camera that can dial.
Yeah, that can dial because
or text.
I don't care how the phone sounds.
Right, nobody cares. Like, I can't really hear you that well. Nobody even cares.
Exactly. And for me, I had a OnePlus before this, right? So remember I had the Pixel 2. It broke.
It's a big phone.
It broke, and then I got the OnePlus, and it was great. I loved it, but the picture sucked.
Yeah.
Every time I wanted to take a picture of the kids, it was always blurry.
Yeah.
We went back, and I got the Pixel 5. Amazing, right? Loved it. And then now the Pixel 6 is out, and I'm like, they changed everything on it. It's a great, great phone. But I think if you have a Pixel 5, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. If you have a Pixel 3, if you have a Pixel 4, obviously if you have a Pixel 2, I know someone from high school, Jeffrey, if he's listening, Jeffrey still has a Pixel 2. Pixel 2, excuse me. But if you're in that range, then I would say go ahead and get the Pixel 6. But a Pixel 5, I don't think it's worth it. Because I've seen the differences. I'm watching these YouTube videos, and I can see the picture quality that people are touting on the Pixel 6, and I'm like, my 5 still does very similar to that. The video is way different.
Okay.
But I don't think it's that much of a game changer. I don't think like I think we're getting to a point now where we're looking at cell phones almost like replacements for like major productions.
Right.
Right. Like people don't carry point and shoots anymore.
Right.
Point and shoot cameras anymore. They just carry their cell phones. And now, Apple is saying like, if you even want to film and vlog and do major cinema.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much people are doing entire movie productions on their phones.
But I'm not on that. I'm just trying to I'm trying to videotape our kids and stuff, so.
And trying to podcast.
Touche. We'll see. Everyone.
So you're a content creator who doesn't want to get the latest technology. I'm just saying.
Well, you guys write in and let me know if this is good enough.
Text us. Text them, let them know.
So listen, everyone, that's it for the show. We'll keep it short on this one. So once again, we talked about Fugees. We talked about this lawsuit that's occurring in Australia. I'll keep you updated and let you know what happens with that. But this is really interesting. Not sure what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
And then we also talked about real estate as well as the 1% rule and the cap rate. And we're going to see if Awning is going to be able to help us get this house in Houston, in H-Town.
H-Town?
Quick enough, right? And then obviously my thoughts on the MacBook Pro, go get it, as well as the Pixel 6, hold off. And we'll keep it a buck, everyone. This is Dr. Nii. I'm joined by, once again,
Dr. Renee.
Yo, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Hey, listen, make sure you text us. Renee, the number, like she said, the number to text us is in the show notes. You could always leave us a voicemail on the website, drneedarko.com. If you click on the right-hand side, you'll see a blue button that says Ask Me a Question. Leave me a voicemail. Let me know what you think about this lawsuit. Let me know what you think about, real estate. Let me know what you think about this MacBook Pro. Am I wrong? Am I right? Let me know. I'm pretty much, I know you're going to say that I'm right because I'm always right. But let us know, guys. If there's any questions about anything, you always find out more in the show notes. But we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.